Well, here we've got with us today Roger Thurston, who has been a member of the club for a number of years and is renowned for being the club's first Premier grade player to reach 200 games. So, Roger, I'd just like to have you talk to us today about your experience in being one of the long-time members of the club in its first 50 years.
Thank you, Rob, and thank you for the privilege of being able to share my Kalamunda sort of life with you. For me, it started back in 1981, and I just left boarding school at Palmerston North, and I was at home on the farm in Taihape, and which is central North Island. And my dad came in with a little advertisement from the Dominion newspaper that said rugby players wanted will assist with accommodation and employment. Perth, West Australia, ring Andrew Todd. And he showed me this ad, and I said to Dad, well, how come you show me that? Don't you want me to work here on the farm with you? And he said, well, I do. But he said, you've just gone on that big World Rugby tour, which we've done at school in the first 15.
Oh, great.
And he said, I know you've sort of got the travel bug, but he said, if you want to head over there to Perth for a look, off you go. And I couldn't pack my bags fast enough.
So how old were you at this stage?
I just turned 18. So, and we didn't know anyone over here that was a thing, but Dad actually rang Toddy, and Toddy assured him that I'd be sort of looked after, and that things would be alright. And the next thing you know, I was on a plane and pulled in. It was a Friday the 13th, which I thought was a bit ominous. But yeah, pulling into Perth was night time. And as I came in, there was just, even back in 81 then, there was, Perth was known for its lights and still is. And seeing all the lights as it flew in, I just sort of went, wow, this is the big smoke. Here I'm a little country boy from Taihape, green as anything. I was so green. And yeah, flying in here, I thought, wow, seems huge, you know. And but you turn up to a club like Kalamunda. Toddy had organised with Lance Pocock and his partner Sally to pick me up at the airport. Lance was a lock with the clubbers, and we ended up locking partners. And I stayed with them to start with, and they were a great couple. They were awesome people. We lived in Mount Hawthorn to start with.
Jeez, it's a fair trot.
Yeah, we were sort of tripping out here, but then it wasn't long until we shifted out here and rented a place out here. And yeah, it was great. The first weekend after I arrived on the 13th, it was on the 15th Sunday. They had a fun day down here at the club, and George Douglas was the coach back then. And George ended up in these like Garrett things, you know, when they've got the neck and the padlocks where your hands get locked up and the things with the thing, and everyone chucking rotten tomatoes at it. And here I am, I'm fresh out of like a pretty strict boarding school, and I'm going, that seems a bit disrespectful. But everyone was having a great time, including George. And yeah, as that day wore on, I kind of, it dawned on me how Kalamunda was a good fun place to be. It had very down-to-earth people, extremely down-to-earth people. And I was feeling extremely welcome just after being there for a couple of days. It was terrific.
Oh, great.
And the old guys, we were still Southern Suburbs, Kalamunda Districts, the NSSKD. And I've written a heap of names down to make sure I try not to miss anybody, but obviously there was Toddy, Steve Masters, Tim Reed, Graham Curran, Dave Gator, Gary Ahern, Alan Rust, Dave Griffin, Rocky Richards, Lance Pocock, Robbie Arnell, Brendan Bracewell and Steve Tomo Thompson. And all those boys there, they took me under their wing. And
were they all players, all these guys?
They were all players, and yeah, even Steve Thompson, I think you might have met Steve. He was still running around back in those days. It was good, and there was George required that we had a very fit team. They'd obviously been playing all these other teams, Neddies and the rest of them. We didn't have a big side. I rocked up here at 6'2" and one of the tallest blokes in the team.
And you were a lock.
And I was a lock. And I was told then, I said, we're going to come up against players that are way bigger than us. You know, we've got to beat them with fitness. And every Tuesday, George had us running the roads. We'd run up, we'd go up, halfway up Wellspool Road Hill, run around all the back of Forestfield and come back down into here down Hartfield Road, and then do proper training to end up having to do scrums and line-outs and all our team stuff after that. So I remember back in '81 we had a very, very fit team, and there wasn't one person who was excused from making those runs, the props, and everyone had to do it all. And yeah, it was they were good times. We had it was a struggle. The seasons in the early '80s were a bit of a struggle. We were sort of generally finishing around the middle to the bottom of the ladder.
And this is in the first grade? You were straight into the first grade team?
Yep. Quite a few times the second, third and fourth and fifth grade we had at one stage. They were doing very well. But sort of through the 80s, our first grade, we did struggle a little bit. But what we changed from was being we weren't easy beats anymore. We'd become a fit side that got around the paddock really well, enjoyed having the ball in our hand, and it was just a shame. There were some very, very close results that we lost, and you know the final, the numbers in the end of it didn't sort of tally up on our favour a lot. But you know we never gave in, and there was a few coaching changes through the 80s. There's we went from I've got some names here too. We had where did I put them? Yeah, we had there was Dave Benao, fellow boy, I've not got it written there. You might have to just break this for a bit.
No, you're right. We'll keep going. You can come. You just keep browsing there.
Yeah.
So you played your first premiership game in '81, soon after you arrived. But how long was before you were on the field?
The first week.
Okay, straight into it. Were you fit enough to be playing? Or?
So there was they had a few pre-season games, and back in those days, I'm sure they probably still do it the same.
Yep.
You swap around and you might play a little bit with the third grade and then a bit with the second grade, certainly because they didn't know how I played, you know, or anything like that. And but yeah, I managed to make myself into the first grade. And
you were what, 19 by this stage, I suppose?
18.
Still 18.
Yeah.
Jesus. Okay.
Yeah. No, I'd only just turned 18 then, in December.
Right.
But the school I played in New Zealand was for Palmerston North Boys High.
Okay.
And we had a very good first 15, and our coach was a fellow named Ian Cahoon, absolutely awesome coach, awesome tactician. What he couldn't get out of guys on the paddock was just unbelievable. And he was our coach on this world tour that we went on. And we were unbeaten on this tour. Supposed to play 13 games, 2 were snowed out. We played 11 games. We went through unbeaten, 6.5 week tour. We were away.
Wow. So where did you go to?
Australia, Singapore, Paris, France, then England. We sort of had a couple of games in England, then 2 in Wales, another one in England, then went over to America on the East Coast, and up the East Coast to New York. New York had a snowed out game. Went up into Canada and across to Vancouver. We played a game. There was another game that got snowed out. It was in Vancouver, but on Vancouver Island, they in Victoria, we played a university team over there where there was 12 inches of snow on the ground when we were there the day before, and we said, oh God, we're going to have another game snowed out. But they went, no, we're going to turn the central heating on. We're going, what's this? And we went there the next day. This ground was dry, fast, running. It was a wicked game, you know. And the ground was beautiful. It was terrific.
Wow.
And then we went down after Vancouver, down the west coast of America and into Mexico for a day trip, and then Hawaii and home. Yeah, it was a great trip for.
Brilliant.
I actually had my 17th birthday in Paris.
That's
it
doesn't get much better in school rugby, I reckon, on that. That's fantastic.
She was pretty cool.
Excellent.
Yeah,
so when you finally came over here, which wasn't much after that, was it? I mean, no. It was just a few months later you were here playing in Perth.
Well, that was in 79.
Okay.
So I had the 1980 season at school.
Yep.
And then the end of that season.
So you were in like year 11, basically, in sixth form or something when you went on the tour.
On the tour, yeah.
And then did seventh form.
Yeah, did 7th form.
And then came to Australia.
And then came over here. And then, yeah.
So, I mean, how long did you play for? How did you get to accumulate? Is it 215 games I see up there as the 100 plus Premier games? Yeah. You're at the top of the list. Yeah, the first one to reach 200 games. So how long did that take?
Well, it was 94 when I finished playing.
Okay.
And they gave me Achilles playing a game down in Palmyra, and I'd actually torn the Achilles off my heel, or partially torn it off my heel bone.
Ooh. And
which all the doctors said that's actually worse than tearing it, because you won't really rest it and it'll keep tearing, and that's what kept happening. And ultimately that sort of brought around the end of my career.
So you were only been like 32 or something at the time?
Yeah. 32.
It was about 14 seasons or something you ended up playing, but I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah.
But obviously there's still, buggers running around out there, they're in their 50s and 60s, it's still playing.
Yeah, well, it might be just as well that I did tear my Achilles, because I might have ended up doing exactly what Cook's doing.
You're possibly still out there now if it was...
Yeah, okay. And which would be much to my dear wife Julie's disgust. She'd be... not that she minded at the time, and this was a bit of a thing actually that was in with the club. Back through those years, through the 80s and 90s, there was a lot of girlfriends and wives, and they all got on like so well together, and it was like a party atmosphere nearly every week, and certainly the home games.
Yeah.
But even when we went away, there was always a big group of the wives and girlfriends, the wags, who came along with us, and ended up partying in the change rooms down at the other clubs, or at the old bars and hotels we might call in afterwards, and they were really good days. And
a few of those wives and girlfriends would be like sisters of other players, I imagine, and relatives. A lot of relationships developed with this club. Where did your wife come into the equation?
Well, when I came here in '81, Tim Reed was playing. He was a centre, and he was going out with Julie's sister. And
Okay.
yeah, that's how, that sort of happened along the way.
Yeah.
A lot of guys, there was a huge recruitment drive through the 80s. A lot of the clubs in Perth back then started paying like quite good money, and good money these days it sounds like bugger all, but if someone would turn up and get their boots paid for and their fees paid for at the club, and they might get $50 a game or something, that was sort of, we thought was big money. Kalamunda could never afford that sort of thing, and hence the likes of the Netherlands and the Cottesloes and even some those clubs closer to town, they managed to draw on sort of those bigger and better players that came over, and the like Kalamunda, we stuck with our down to earth boys. A lot of farm boys came here.
Okay.
Yeah. And we stuck with our down to earth crew out here, and it was very good. It was bloody good.
So in your playing days, what are some of the highlights that you can recall when as you sort of just played, it seems like,
Yeah.
you were...
Rob, the thing that really gets me in, when I was trying to go through this and remember all the names, is we had over the years there's been a huge turnaround of people, and people have come and gone, they've come back, they've been and come back. And people just would come for a couple of seasons and then head off further around the world, more travelling. And it's just, for me, the relationships and mates that you've just met over all those years, and and you can't remember all their names because there are so many. But that's been the biggest ride for me, and all those like-minded people that came through these doors and pulled on their rugby boots, and all you want to do was get out there and play rugby and win. It was unreal, eh? It was really good. Highlight, obviously, 94, that was my last season. We finally managed to make it into grand final.
Okay. Was that the first grand final that the Premiership team had made?
Since I've been
in your time, yeah.
The guys 2 years, I think that was in 79. The SSKD boys had made a grand final, and which they narrowly lost, and I think that was to Netherlands as well. 3-0, I think they lost their one. We had we'd gone through, as I sort of saying, some of these new recruits that we had that have turned up, the likes of Craig and Wayne MacArthur, Brett Allison, Darryl Lydiard, Kim Malcolm, Peter Shadbolt, Adam Whitey Whitehead, Peter Simpkins and Dean Nicholson. There are others like there's so many others that just should be on that list, and but there's just sort of too many to name.
Yep.
And the camaraderie and we had to scrap and fight for our wins, and a lot of time that actually meant that we, because these other teams, they were bigger and they were stronger, thought they were, and they'd try and get it over us with their size, and they'd try to bully us.
Yeah.
And there were blokes here we were just going, in the end just going, no way. And I'll tell you what, there's a pretty tight feeling amongst players when you can get it all together and you can go and you can actually bash up blokes on the ground that are bigger than you, and they're further up the ladder than you, and you can have a big win.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of pride and there's a lot of club pride. Gee, there were people, there were members of this old club that were just so much behind what we were doing, even though sometimes it was not pretty. It was not pretty.
A win's a win.
Yeah, but that's right. And yeah, we started making some headway, and along this recruitment drive, there were 3 lots of people that turned up who were very, very special to the club. And one was Coops, obviously Coops turning up.
Yep.
And then
Nigel Cooper. Nigel Cooper.
Nigel Cooper, yeah. And then Snow Smolensky, he turned up. A very good rugby player, Snow. And he never a more competitive bloke I don't think I've ever met than Snow. He had this absolute desire to win and really win only, and it did come down to almost sort of win at all costs. And
not the biggest man either.
No, he wasn't. And but he's very skillful player. And unfortunately, Snow, he'd been involved in a nasty car accident when he was younger, and he'd broken his pelvis, and that had all healed up a bit crooked.
Right.
And then he had a couple of injuries kind of related to that. And then we were playing this game, and he got this most horrible head-high tackle that just wrecked him, and he had to go and see doctors and all the rest of it. And as part of all these x-rays and things that happened, this when they worked out that his pelvis was out of alignment, and this was doing this with his back, and that's with his neck, and they recommended that he never ever play again. And he was devastated, and he just went, well, no, that's actually not going to bloody happen, I'm playing again. He came on for another game and got head-high tackled again. And everyone was so down for him, because we just knew how that wasn't, but that drove him into coaching. And at the same time, Snow rocked up then and he was playing. We were so lucky to end up with this relationship with these Fijian boys. And Sete was the first one to come over. And then after that, we had Rex and so Pili Rakai, Tamosi Wakuni Vavalagi, and Danny Ranavu all sort of turned up roughly at the same time.
So they were the first wave of Fijian players to come to the club. Okay.
Yeah, it was.
Yep.
And Rex has rocked up to this club, and here he was at the inaugural World Cup. He played for Fiji in the inaugural World Cup, and he's a superstar. Here he is, and he was playing prop for us, but he played hooker for Fiji.
Okay.
This man, his calf muscles are that big, and and he was the most workest prop to prop on, apart from Shaddy will tell me off if I don't say Shaddy, but he's Peter Shadbolt. But no,
he'd make the forward pack walk a little bit taller, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Having him in there.
Yeah, well, we played Western Suburbs one year. Western Suburbs were always renowned for just being that little bit gnarly. They'd always have someone willing to give you a clip round the ear or smack in the jaw or come up with some smart comment. And they had a guy played for them called the Fridge, and he thought he was pretty cool, this guy, and we were having this line out, and he called Rex an ape, and it was this thing, and Rex just, what did you say? And he said, I called you a bloody ape, and he'd never seen anything like it. An open hand to the side of this guy's face was a slap. And he was knocked out on his feet. And he was out before he even hit the ground. And it was right in front of the ref. The referee heard what he'd said and saw that he said he deserved that. Get him off. No penalty. No.
God, okay.
But Rex and Danny Ranavu was a lock as well. and played a bit of number 8. The smiling assassin we called Danny. Danny was so quiet. He was just this very quiet man. But geez, he was lethal on the ground, lethal on the pad. He was ex-services. He was like in the Fijian Marine Corps, and he served overseas in some deployments. I'm not sure exactly where, but he'd seen a lot of sort of live action sort of thing. Yeah, Danny was a lethal character, and Tamosi, he was the most fleet of foot, skillful. His centre of gravity was about his ankle. Yeah, he could move and swerve like you wouldn't believe. And yeah, Timmy, although he was, sometimes he seemed a little bit almost lazy. You sort of thought, just give Timmy the ball and he'll run away and score a try. But I loved, at that time, I was playing a lot of number 8. And from a scrum, I'd just haul out and try and get on Timmy's inside shoulder, because there'd always be something happening. You know, you get a good ball back from him after he's made a good few metres and things, you know. Yeah, he was wicked.
Excellent.
Guys like Peter Simpkins, and Pete, I'm so sorry for what's just happened, mate. But Pete came, he'd represented the Bay of Plenty in New Zealand, and he came over. This was really the peak of his rugby career, and he's turned up here and he's going, I'm not taking that shit ball off the line out, so are you fellas here? And I'll tell you what, he tidied things up and he made things, and he swore at all us forwards.
What position did he play?
He's halfback. And Pete was only a little fella, but he was there and he was barking orders and doing the thing. And he made a big difference. He made a big difference to how we sort of tightened up our rugby and the thing. And I meant to mention before with George Douglas, our scrum we were smaller, and the scrum was sometimes, and he introduced us to this guy Rufus. Rufus came in, a Maorifa, and Rufus turned up. He's a scrum technician. God knows where George knew him from. He's a mate of his. But Rufus got us out of the scrum machine, and over a series of drills, and Rufus turned up over a number of years. There's a few years he turned up, but that guy there also, just technique with scrummaging and having a smaller team on the field, and next thing you know, just binding it up and tightening it. We had a fantastic scrum through nearly the whole time I was playing. Even though we were smaller, we had a fantastic scrum, tight, compact, and
Everyone locked into a single weight.
And very quick and very fit and fast around the pattern. And so it was a thing. But you're just saying, a lot of this recruitment drive, see, a lot of these fellas all came over mostly from New Zealand, and but there was a fair few inclusions from the local boys, and the likes of Craig Piggy Garrett, Jimmy Perry, Jeff Jibbers Owen, the Thomas brothers, Jared Adams and Andy Norton. They were big contributors to local guys at the time. Of course, the likes of those guys I read out first. A lot of them were, Toddy and Tim Reed and Steve Masters, and all. They were all local fellas as well, who still were on the sidelines rather than cheering us all on. It was great times, And but yeah, we even had a couple of Kiwis versus the rest of the world games, and back in the day. But I think